Allie's over there. Stop your cursing, Allie.
Streaming to
Blow out the
Twitch.
candles.
Hi, Twitch. Let me know when we are streaming.
Streaming on YouTube.
All over the place.
13 people on YouTube.
Whoop whoop. What's up, people?
16 people.
Sorry, I should do it. The devil horns, not the hang
And
loose.
Facebook. We are live.
Or
Sarcastic Vulcan.
Or I love you. Yeah.
That's my thing.
Sarcastic Vulcan.
Yep. Picked up from Lower Decks. It's my favorite.
Fair. Now, is it the thumbs in or is it?
It's just
thumbs?
it's like a Vulcan salute.
Understood. Yes, but I didn't know if you had to have like thumbs in for Vulcan salute or.
I think
or,
if you do this,
like,
it's more like a Ninja Turtle thing.
Yeah.
Fair.
Well, I've seen. I don't
We'll
know.
call her Amy for the show. It'll be fine.
Rude.
Wow.
Yes. Done. Amy from Ninja Turtles? Come
Sure,
on.
I guess, but
She was the reporter?
I get
Yeah.
misnamed all the time.
All right. Favorite Ninja Turtle?
I don't know. Shredder.
Donatello.
Yeah, Shredder's pretty
Okay.
good.
Yeah, Donatello.
Yeah. Not Michelangelo.
Rocksteady.
Michelangelo. Yeah, pizza with. I love nunchucks.
Did you hear that guy in the store call me Abby like 3 times?
Yes.
I told him my name,
Abby.
He's
someone.
probably watching, so that's fine. Her name's Abby.
which is fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Hi,
wrong
Abby.
with that.
Allie. Amy. Whatever your name is.
Amy,
All right.
sure. Let's go with Amy.
All right. Let's get it started. Roll the intro.
The history of the Gallic lands is one of struggle, punctuated by moments of sheer brilliance.
Tartan is Scotland's gift to the world, and it is your personal heritage story. Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome to Kilts and Culture. I can speak. My name is Rocky. That's Eric.
Yo.
Today, special treat from our friend Jonathan Foster. We have Redemption Bourbon. So,
Bourbon, Rocky. Why are we
Bourbon.
drinking bourbon?
I don't know. People give us bourbon. I'm not a big bourbon guy, so
We
will,
figured it's July 4th weekend starting,
Yep.
so we'll do something American.
got to do something a little American.
What'd
just
you
for
hay?
July 4th weekend. You're correct. All right. And Miss Allie, if you wouldn't mind, why don't you come collect your bottle?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Allie.
And Allie, what tartan do you have on while you're here?
Today I have Purple Mountain Majesty, of course.
Purple Mountain Majesty. Very nice. Very nice.
Ta-da.
There you go. All right. Eric, for you. All right. And what tartan do you have on, Eric?
Owen Glendour.
You have on the Glendower tartan. Very nice.
It's where shit don't you know?
Indeed. And I have on the County Fair tartan, our brand new one. Woo! So we'll do a little sneaky that later in the show. All right. So, Allie, for the Redemption Bourbon, what do we have for the flavor profile or stuff?
All right, for the stuff. So on the nose, it has caramel with just a touch of spice and hints of overripe bananas.
Okay, so
Oh, that's appealing. Overripe.
it's a truly easy drinking whiskey, distinguished by a subtle rye-forward flavor. Our bourbon has a rye content of 21%, giving it a light but distinct hint of spice. I heard that somewhere.
Could I do that next time? I want to do the voice for
You
it.
want to do the announcer voice? Okay. Well, you always do the announcer voice.
Yeah,
You got the
okay, you're
radio
right,
voice,
you're
not
right.
me. So I'm trying.
That's right, Rocky.
I'm trying to keep up with you, Eric. All right. So we got bananas and something. I wasn't actually paying
Yep,
attention.
so that's okay. A hint of caramel with just a little touch of spice and a finish of overripe bananas. It's kind of giving me like
hate to say it, but
bourbon
I-
meets bananas Foster.
Yeah.
I am getting the banana. They're not wrong.
All right.
There's a caramelly tone to it and a banana.
Yeah, it's a reasonably simplistic description. Sometimes they're a bit crazy and flowery. I get the caramel, I get the banana, and I get the spicy a little bit. So right.
Would you like to hear
on
the
the
other-
palate, what do we got?
Yeah, on the palate, it's toffee, cola nut, a little bit of baking spice, and a nuanced anise, and a little sprinkle of black pepper. I'd say the toffee comes through.
I get all those things. I get the anise
little
for
bit of
sure.
pepper.
I get the
Yep.
pepper for sure.
A
Dang.
little anise. I'm having a hard time getting the pepper.
I get pepperiness. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is hella sweet. Is it just me, or is it really sweet?
Yeah, it's got a bit of a black licorice, like anise black licorice sort of sweetness flavor to it.
Yeah.
I'd say something like a semi-sweet. It's not the sweetest bourbon I've ever had, but definitely a bit wets the whistle.
You're a bourbon girl?
Whiskey girl. Yeah, I like
Whiskey
whiskey.
girl? Okay.
Okay.
This is supposed to be, I don't know anything about this, but this is apparently part of their pre-prohibition series or something, or that's just how they roll. So
Indeed. All right.
it will not make you go blind, I guess, is what that means. You know.
Allie, what do we have on the finish?
On the finish, smooth with a sweet and spicy balance between corn and cracked pepper.
I'm getting a little bit of vanilla kind of on the finish, but yeah,
Still getting some of that caramel.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm feeling
Spice,
for vanilla.
Sweet vanilla.
Yeah. All right.
Interesting.
Yeah, not uber complex, but
No, it's not complex, but
yeah, it's pretty accurate.
yeah,
Okay.
pretty
All right.
tasty. Pretty tasty.
Allie, what do you rate the Redemption Bourbon? Scale of 1 to 10. Get in there with the decimal points. Don't be afraid. 1 or 2 and below is politely refuse. 8 and above, you would drive somewhere to get it. And then, 6, 7, it's fine. It's average.
I would probably rate this a solid 6, maybe leaning into 7, but I'll stick with 6. The flavor is nice. The sweetness appeals to me a little bit. If the black pepper came through a bit more, this would easily bump up to a 7 or 8. I would go somewhere to get it. Wouldn't refuse this. This is nice.
Okay. So you're 6, between
Solid
6 and
6.
7. So 6.5?
6.5.
6.5?
We could do a 6.5 if we're doing points.
Okay. Yeah. Eric.
I'm not so much of a bourbon drinker, but this is nice. Again, it's not terribly sophisticated, but it's not high art. It'd make a great old fashioned. So I'll give it like a 5.52377276.
Or round up to 5.2. Round to 5.2.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Fair. I'm kind of the
Do you water?
same comments. Yeah, no, we didn't water it yet.
Do you water bourbon? I don't even
I
know.
don't
if you're
know.
supposed to water bourbon.
Do you? Oh, all right.
Well, I am.
All right,
There we go.
Tiny bit. Just touch. Open it up. All right. Shoot. This is screwing up our scores.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just trying to keep you on track.
Made it worse. Okay. So good. So I'm not a bourbon guy either. So I think the highest I would ever rate a bourbon would probably be 6.5, and that would be like the best bourbon in the world. But this, it does what it says on the tin, as they say. So I'm gonna go 5.9. I'll go 5.9.
Okay.
It's a reasonably good bourbon. Not a bourbon guy, but
Yeah.
it's not bad.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Good.
I would try and compose blues tunes while drinking that.
Indeed. So, before we get to... Well, first, let's do this. All right, boys and girls. As always, we are but your humble servants here to answer whatever questions you have for us, Kilts or culture related. So, put those in the comments, and Allie will start tabulating and cataloging and holding them and, I don't know, cradling them, something like that.
Whispering sweet nothings too.
Yes, whispering sweet nothings in their ear. But while you are adding those questions that you have for us in the comments, we have another special treat. We are going to give a sneak preview of the brand new documentary that everyone's talking about, at least here. Celtic Heart, Irish and Scottish Festivals in America. It's coming out July 9th over on YouTube. Today, we are giving the live audience a sneak preview of the first 50-something seconds of the movie. So you're going to get to see the beginning of the movie. So without further ado, let's roll it.
Gotta give them what they're here for. They're here to connect. They're bonded by blood.
It just elicits a response it's like no other.
We are the real representation of the Scottish heritage and the Celtic spirit that's out there.
Stepping out of the normal day-to-day grind, interact with their own culture, their own past.
A lot of people doing things I don't think they'd usually do, wearing things they wouldn't wear, they're just having fun.
Something almost magical.
To discover your heritage, I don't think it could get any better.
So, that is the movie coming out July 9th, mini documentary on Celtic festivals and why Americans need to go to Celtic festivals and connect with our heritage. We had a full sneak preview screening, an advanced screening.
Advanced screening.
Advanced screening, yeah. One of those things. We had that at our customer appreciation party last week.
Yep.
I think it went over pretty well.
It went over very well.
Yeah, there was people didn't boo it. They weren't throwing things. So I was pleased with that.
Or chase us down the street.
Yes,
How
indeed.
dare you?
I did blow out my speaker. The woofer
That was funny.
went out
Yeah.
about halfway through the movie because we had the volume so loud because we had like 50, 60 people in the room. So yeah, that was a bit difficult. You had the wah 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 going for the second half of the movie.
Yep.
But it is fully blown, my speaker. Love it. If it's going to go, that's the way to go.
This is a 30-minute runtime, right?
Yep, 31 minutes.
31 minutes on the DIT.
Yes.
It's off and on in production for the past 9
Several
months,
years. Well,
something like that.
several years,
Well,
if
some
you
of
talk
the
about the
some of the
footage,
footage actually was collected over several years, but
Yeah.
a lot of people involved.
Yeah, it's one of those things where this movie is not about us. This movie is about Celtic festivals. It's about the community around Celtic festivals. It's about the musicians. It's about the people who organize the things. It's about the vendors. It's about the patrons. It's about all of it and why we need to support it and why it's a great time to go to. Yeah, just in general. So when it comes out, July 9th, it's premiering over on YouTube. I would humbly ask everybody, if possible, share this thing far and wide so people understand why we do what we do. My favorite compliment that I've gotten so far on it of people who've seen the movie in advance was Jane from Celtic Classic, who's in the film. She's the lady that essentially is the president or runs the managing lady at Celtic Classic. She said, "I want to show this to all of our staff, to all the volunteers, to everybody involved in this, because this is why we do what we do. It's because you summed it up and just put it forward." So I'm happy to at least have one person think that we encapsulated the whole vibe of it well.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So.
All right. Eric.
All right.
Why don't you give us one of the pre-asked
Without
questions?
further ado. Without further ado. Michael Milholland said, "I live in a small 4-room house with multiple cats. Instructions for washing and drying my casual kilt includes laying it flat to dry, which really isn't practical for me, so what is the next best alternative?" I guess he doesn't want cat hair making a second layer
there's
of
that.
fabric on his kilt.
So our polyviscose kilts, it's machine wash cold, lay flat to dry. That said, you can hang it dry if you want to hang it dry. My tip for it is, let's say you're in an apartment, you have no room.
You're in an apartment, you have no room.
Indeed. So what I would do is this. I would get either 2 skirt hangers or kilt hangers. I would fold the kilt in thirds like you normally would wear it. And then I would clip 1 kilt hanger to the front or to the aprons and 1 to the pleats. And then I would keep those hangers. I'd go into your bathroom or something where you have, the curtain rod up top, and I'd hang those 2 hangers on the curtain rod, and I would separate them so that it's more of a cylinder, so air can flow through it and around it, and all that kind of thing. While it is damp, I would straighten out all the pleats and kind of push them into place, make sure they're not wrinkly coming out of the spin cycle on the washer.
Right.
But yeah,
you
That's
just
what I
kind of
do.
run your fingers down each pleat while it's damp and kind of stretch and flatten as you go, and that really is a nice little shortcut for a PV kilt, at least.
yeah.
So it's actually the whole point of those is that they're supposed to be easy care. So Rocky's being graceful about it. I will give a shameless plug for our own kilt hangers. They happen to work really, really well. Highly recommend.
Yep.
2 of those and you're good to go.
Yep. Indeed.
Well, that was a short one.
Yeah, it was. Allie, has anyone asked any questions on the interwebs?
Yeah, I've got a few.
Okay.
Let's see. So, since we're fresh off the whiskey, or bourbon, sorry, I do have one pertaining to USA Kilts and Bourbon.
Sure.
So this is from, looks like Colton Cunningham. Would USA Kilts ever do a partnership with an alcohol company to create a co-brand of scotch?
Oh, neat.
Co-branded scotch, sorry.
Sure.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
If they find a company that wants to embarrass themselves that much, then sure, we could do
Sink
that.
down to our level. That's fine. I know like Kinloch Anderson has their own scotch or whiskey. I know a few brands have kind of gone into dip their toes in the water of life. See what I did there? So yeah, we've never been approached by anyone to try a particular whiskey or promote a particular whiskey. It's
Get the Aldi people on the phone.
yeah. So what would
What would we name it?
What would we name it, and what would the flavor profile be?
That's what I want.
That's a real question. Because I would in the old days I would say that you would absolutely want it to be an Isla, but you say you've kind of got
mellowed on it a touch.
Yeah.
But I'd still want like an Oban or like the Oban 18, which is my favorite freaking scotch in the world. Just have like a hint of it or some of it there. Just tone down a bit. So I definitely want a little bit of peat, a little bit of smoke, but like a minor note of it, not so it's overpowering.
So what about like an Isla?
An Isla, they range an Isla Scotch. Oban, I think it's technically an Isla, though it's in, oddly enough, Oban, which is not on the island of Isla.
I thought it did qualify as an Isla.
Yeah, but it does qualify. Yeah, but it's still more toned down. I do like Spacesides that are a little bit more just kind of mellow, relaxed. I would want it to be an all season whiskey. I would not want it like I feel like Isla Scotches. I want to have them in the winter. I want to have them in the fall, in front of a fire, kind of, and nice, snuggled up under a blanket or that kind of thing. So I wouldn't want something that you would only enjoy in one season.
Okay, fair.
I'd probably want something that's not necessarily like made for mixing. I would want it to be something that would stand alone.
Yes.
What would your flavor notes be?
To represent the company?
Yeah. A little bit of sweet, a little bit of salty.
Stress? What flavor reminds me of deadlines?
Black pepper. No.
No, actually, I do like some pepper. I do like pepper. I tend to really like the sherry cask tones.
Okay.
So I'd like some of that in there.
I've recently been on the drinking Balvenie rum cask. I do kind of like a little rum,
Well,
a little mixture in there.
I do like rum.
Yeah.
I think we're fine with that. Well, it should be. I mean, how do you get the American aspect in there?
Oh, the American oak
'Cause
cask.
we're American oak cask because we're Americans.
Yeah, I would do that. Allie, what would your addition to this witch's brew of a whiskey be?
Well, I feel something that would be truly on brand for USA Kilts would be perhaps a butterscotch flavored whiskey.
Oh, because of the can.
Maybe with a hint of overripe strawberries at the end.
Interesting.
And pepper.
Yeah, and pepper.
No, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. This is a challenge.
It is. It is. All right, so I'm going to throw this back out to everybody out there. What would your flavor profiles be for a USA Kilts whiskey? What notes of sarcasm and Transformer would you put in there?
And G.I. Joe and
yes, and G.I. Joe and Thundercats and
other
yes.
80s references.
Indeed, insert them all here. Now I just have gonna have Marty put in like Yojo, Thundercats, and like roll out all at the same time. Yes, indeed. Okay.
What are you gonna name it?
What are we gonna name it? What would we name it? I don't know. Not feeling very creative. My brain's in a different spot right now.
It is
Yeah, it is what it is.
That's perfect.
It's the least enticing name for a whiskey.
No.
What do you think of this? It is what it is.
I'd travel for it is what it is.
Yeah.
You do you.
Yeah, you do you.
You do. You. No, it's dew as in Mountain Dew. You do.
As in the Foggy Dew. Yes.
Yes, in
Love
Foggy
it.
Dew. Well, then,
yes.
Yeah, but we're doing a Scotch, not Irish.
Yeah,
whiskey,
that's
right?
fair.
So.
That's fair.
We're not gonna have Bodie make a boat whiskey as a name, but if people want to submit name ideas, I would love to hear them.
Bodie McBoatface. Yes.
Whiskey face.
Scotch McWhisky. Whatever. All right.
Rocky Road to Dublin. Rocky.
Yes. The Rocky Dew. Now that gets weird and creepy. Never mind. All right.
Scotch on the Rocky.
Oh. Maybe. Don't know. All right. Scotch in the Rocky? Cheers. Slunch. All right. That was Allie. Eric, give me another one.
Okay. Let's do something related to what we do. Okay. Brian Taylor asked us. Actually, Allie, this is going to probably involve you. How does a 5'1" woman, just a wee lass, who is short-waisted and medium to large busted, wear a kilt without looking dumpy and frumpy? I don't know if those are his words or his spouse's words.
They ought to be his spouse's words.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, for his sake. Indeed. All right, bring Allie in. We're gonna we're going to you first.
Short.
Okay. So, being a short lass myself, there are some benefits to the kilt that kind of add a little bit of shape to the body. Since as Brian described, the waist is a little short, you're going to benefit a lot from the slight flare that the kilt gives at the bottom. And I would probably recommend wearing it a little high on the waist, if you can. This will kind of give the illusion of more length in the torso.
You wrote this all down?
No.
Oh, okay. So you're looking here and I was like...
I just wanted to make sure I, covered all the deets.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know that the bust would really come into play too much. And, I mean, if it does, again, the flare of the kilt, I feel like gives the body a little bit of balance, kind of emphasizes that hourglass shape that somebody with a shorter torso might be missing. So that would be my answer. I also might, depending on your own modesty choices, I might suggest something that is just above the knee a little bit. Again, giving the illusion that the legs are a little bit longer, the torso is a little bit longer as well.
So mini kilt would possibly be a better choice for somebody of that height.
I personally think so.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, as somebody who is like all body and no legs, being myself, the mini kilt makes my legs look longer.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, would you suggest like platforms or higher heels?
Yeah.
To help with extension?
Absolutely.
Length?
If you're a shorter person, something with a little bit of elevation, even if it is a flat shoe on a platform, is going to give you a little bit of actual height, but it's going to, again, give the illusion that your legs are a little bit longer, which is usually the goal. Of course, please be happy with your body. Your body's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think anybody should think of themselves as, what was it, frumpy and dumpy, frumpy and grumpy
Brian.
and sleepy and Doc.
I was going to say it's Seven Dwarves, yeah.
Yeah, but the hourglass thing is actually advice that, or a visual that I try to give men also, is basically because it we have the higher on a guy, you have using the true waist for where the kilt starts, you actually get this triangular hourglass kind of shape, which is like accentuates the shoulders more. Yeah, and it just proportionally makes your body look more streamlined in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's actually the same for women too. So.
Yep. Those are my thoughts.
There you go. Okay.
I don't have much to add. My wife is perfect the way she is.
I see.
Indeed.
Agreed.
Smoke show. She hates when I call her that. I'm like, babe, you're Smoke Show. She's like, no, stop
show?
it.
Smoke show.
Never heard Smoke Show before?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard Smoke Show.
Yeah. No, it means just...
It's a compliment.
Yes. It's,
I figured that.
yeah.
Okay.
Indeed. All right. That was a quick one, too.
That was easy.
Okay. Allie.
Yeah. All right.
Yes. What, Rocky?
Yes.
Would you mind reading some questions?
Yes.
Sure, Rocky.
Okay. So, moving on. From Solomon Tucker, we have, how do you put a great kilt brooch on a great kilt every time? Do I do it? I start bending the pen part.
The pin. Got it.
Well, I'm just reading it as it is, hoping it would make sense at the end.
Okay.
So just a little bit of filler here. Yeah. So, do I start, when I start putting it on it, the pin is bending?
Yeah. There are, yes. Problem heard
Known
and understood.
problem.
Yes. It depends, I would say, on the brooch that you are using, and the type of material that your kilt is, your grade kilt is. So if it is like the clan crest brooches, I like, but the pin is a little thinner. So that I like those more for like a fly plaid than I would for a grade kilt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would find a plaid brooch that has, or a plaid brooch that is a thicker pin on the back. And 2 other points. One, when you actually have your kilt on, you can't really wrap a grade kilt and just leave the plaid brooch on. You kind of have to, you're wrapping yourself up into it, so you do have to do it every single time you actually put it on. I would say 2 things. One, look for 3 things. One, look for one with a thicker pin, slightly thicker. 2, look at the pin itself. A lot of the times the pin, like the point on the pin, it's a little bit dull. So I'd say maybe use a file and sharpen the pin to an extreme point, if it's not already. And 3, when you're putting it on, take the pin and grab 1 layer of fabric at a time and kind of twist the pin into the fabric and go through slowly. Don't just try to like jam it straight through. The harder you jam, especially if you have a thinner pin on the back of your plaid brooch, it's going to, it's going to tend to bend. So take a nice hard sturdy pin and slowly kind of work it through the fabric and work it out the other side. That would be my tips. So, and those are probably easier on wool fabric than they are on something more densely woven like PV. Eric.
Pretty much the same advice, but yeah, I mean, I would not ever try to use something like a clan crest pin as a plaid brooch. It's just not meant for that. It's not sturdy enough. A plaid brooch, like is usually sold modernly, is meant to be used with a fly plaid or fly plaid, and again, some of them are actually, they're more on the jewelry side than the functional side, but they are at least a little larger. Something that has a solid metal pin which has a bent hook part that just is in a loop of a hinge on the back of the brooch, as opposed to like a wheel, like a mechanical hinge on, so something that does not need a clasp, but rather bends under a hook because it's solid metal like that. The heftier the better. You may do well looking at merchants who sell for reenactors or SCA and stuff like that. You want something pretty hefty. All the advice that Rocky mentioned is the same for me. A lot of time I see people trying to bunch the fabric like this, and you wind up actually going through like 3 or 4 or more layers of the fabric because you're scrunching it all together, so you're basically getting this accordion effect. So it's just like a lot of material for the brush to go through. I find holding it flattened like this, kind of like spreading it out a little bit between your thumb and your fingers, so you're only getting a couple layers of the fabric, is going to help a lot. So you're not going through more than you have to. And other than that, yeah, make sure it's pointy and practice a bit. It is a vestige of a technology from when fabrics were a bit looser weave. So it is kind of, we're having a modern problem using modern fabric to do this. So
I would also say if you have a question about what's the best plaid brooch to buy for a grade kilt, whether it's from us or another company, send the company an email and just say, hey, I have a grade kilt. I've had a problem with my plaid brooches or plaid brooches with the pin bending in the past. What is your sturdiest pins that you have on the back of your brooches, and let the company respond to you, and then select from those, because not some companies, like we said earlier, are making them more for decoration or for a fly plaid, which is just kind of it's real easy and you can actually leave it on there. It's not really functional, versus some that are more functional and harder wearing. So yeah, that would be my advice about that.
Pretty much.
Indeed. All right, Eric.
We're
whipping through questions today.
All right. Well, this one might take a little longer. Steve Walters said, for a black tie event on a budget, do you think it's better to wear a black bow tie with an argyle jacket and vest and then buy a nicer dress sporran, or instead spend the money on a lower use Prince Charlie coatee with a cheaper sporran? He's trying.
Okay.
How are you doing black tie without breaking the bank? Essentially.
Okay. So I'm assuming this means that he probably has an Argyle and a black bow tie, and he still needs to get a dress sporran.
Potentially. Mm-hmm.
Or should he just do that and get a nicer dress sporran and kind of, let the jacket be what it's going to be? Or should he invest in a... Does he say whether he was looking for like a budget Prince Charlie and a budget dress
He says
sporran?
lower use, so I think he's assuming that... I don't know if it doesn't have to be high quality because it's not going to get a lot of wear and tear. He's only using it once a year.
Okay.
Or he could be...
He go in a better
Just
quality.
saying,
It's just he's using it less.
The
lower
irony,
use.
at least from us as merchants, is the fact that our Prince Charlies are actually a bit cheaper than our Argyle sets, or they used to be.
Yeah, I think they're about the same now.
They're about the same now, actually.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So my depending on what you consider cheap for a dress sporran, I'll kind of start there a little bit. And do what's practical, and do what your budget will allow. None of this should break the bank. Period. You should not have to take out a second mortgage on your home to be able to do this stuff. You can, they're like peanuts. You just build it over time. You just snack on one at a time. So, if it were me and I had to choose between buying, let's start with the cheap route. I either had to buy a cheap Prince Charlie and a cheap dress sporran. So like a $150, $200 Prince Charlie and a $50 dress sporran. So like imported, real cheap stuff. Or buy one real nice dress sporran and just wear it with an Argyle and a black bow tie. I would go that route. I would wear my black bow tie that I already have, and I would buy a nicer sporran, knowing that I'm investing in quality versus investing in something and spending money on something that I don't really love. Like if I'm going to spend, $50, $100 on a cheap dress sporran versus a $300 Fox one that I've had my eye on for years, I'd rather just get the one that I actually want versus still pine after that one and just have a white rabbit fur that's shedding after every single time I wear it. Yeah. Like I'd rather wait a little bit and buy the right thing, the right tool for the job versus close enough. And I'd rather just kind of fudge the jacket a little bit in this instance. I'd rather have an Argyle on because let's be honest, most Americans are not going to understand that the Prince Charlie is the correct thing for black tie, not an Argyle jacket and vest. But if you have an Argyle jacket and vest, and I'm saying and vest specifically, the vest helps dress it up a little bit.
Right.
It's black, so it looks more formal. You have the bow tie on, you still have the shiny buttons, and you'd have your cooler, new, fancy dress sporran you've been pining after. So I would move that direction. Eric.
Yeah, pretty much the same advice. If you were going to a Highland, not Highland, but let's say a clan society type event, you're going to a burn stuff or something where there's going to be other people kilted up and they know what they're looking at, then you might want to consider going more on the formal side. But for a lot of purposes here in the United States, you're probably going to be fine with an Argyle, like Rocky said. I will also throw in the fact that sometimes an Argyle set is more forgiving on more body types than a PC. And so depending on how much of a belly you have, for instance, you may find that the Argyle, for general use, A, you'll use it more often, and B, it's a bit more flattering. Sometimes I find like the coatee and the vest with the PC just kind of like bubbles out a bit and accentuates the belly. So it's not as flattering on larger gents sometimes. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, a sporran is going to outlast the jacket, theoretically. It could be something you're going to have the rest of your life. So yeah, get the one that you really care about. And that's where all the attention is going to go to anyway. Especially, again, in an American context, they're going to be looking at the sporran and the guy in the kilt. The type of jacket is going to be less of a factor.
Yeah, and I would even say, to your point, even at like St. Andrew's events down in Philadelphia, where it is a formal thing, where you're supposed to be dressing, formal wear. Even there's still guys in Argyle jackets. It's even when it's supposed to be, and they're supposed to know better. And no one is going to say, even at a formal event, no one is going to say to you like, you only have on an Argyle jacket, you have to go home and change. Like, no one's going to do that. They're going to be polite about it, and they're either going to not know or not care, or at minimum not say anything. So even if it's, now taking the other scenario where they say, okay, I would get a proper Prince Charlie, and let's even say a lower cost dress sporran, meaning like even like a leather dress sporran,
Like
or
a leather
plain,
dress, yeah.
plain bovine, $250 dress sporran. Even there, I would rather, if you're, and you said, low usage. So if you're only going to wear it once every few years, I think here's what I would do. I would split the difference. If you really feel weird and you're like, no, but I know that I'm supposed to be wearing a Prince Charlie, or everybody else in my friend group is going to have a Prince Charlie. Here's what I would do. Rent the Prince Charlie. I would rent it and still buy the nicer sporran. I wouldn't, if you're only going to wear it once every other year, then it's not worth buying to me, unless you know you're going to wear it, once a year, once every 6 months, something like that.
Right,
You have multiple
right.
reasons to wear it, then okay, fine. Or if you win the lottery, great. Or if your entire family gets you gift certificates to the best kilt store in the world, usakilts.com, then I would buy it at that point if you have disposable income to be able to do so. But if you don't, just rent the Prince Charlie. There's a bunch of different places online where you can rent it. Kilt Rental USA are friends of ours out in Arizona. You can go talk to them.
Good people.
But I would still buy the right dress sporran, the one that you actually want, the one that speaks to your soul, and have something as far as the outfit that you're just like, yes, that's the one I want. There's little to no reason in my mind, unless I really can't afford it. I need a kidney transplant and can't afford the thing. Then that's the only reason why I'll buy the lesser thing. I would save up and get the thing I actually want, period, because knowing myself, I would not be happy with anything but that.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah. No, I agree.
cool.
Yep.
Miss Allie,
Sir.
do we have anyone out there in the interwebs?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anybody
so-
out there?
Rocky, this one will be for you specifically. From, just going to say Polvik, Polvc is how they spell their name.
Okay.
So Rocky, what's your secret to keeping things fresh with so many new tartan designs rolling out in the America 250 collection? And what's the secret to the steady growth of USA kilts over the past 20 years? He wants the secret in the sauce.
Yes.
Yes.
What is this? Like a Bob Rawata's interview or something?
Wawa?
What are you, like Charlie
Baba Wawa?
Rose?
Yes.
I mean,
Indeed.
Ted Koppelize?
Better Ted Koppel than Ted Bundy interview.
Yeah,
That's-
Ted Bundy. Those
I
never
don't know,
end
I heard
well.
he's pretty handsome.
But I do look delicious. So, serial killer jokes. Why not? So, the
Okay, so break it down first
indeed,
of all.
for the America 250 collection, there's 13 designs in our A250 collection. So it's not like I have to have 200 brand new ones. So it's kind of the process for whittling down to the 13 concepts back last in what, March, April of 2024. We were, it was me, Eric, and a couple other people, and bouncing ideas off other people in the building of what 13 abstract or concrete concepts can we talk about that are part of the American experience, and then what we didn't really design the tartans or have too much of an inspiration on how the tartan would be designed in the original conceptualization of of the
It was
project.
the meaning for it was the touchstones first.
Yeah. It was how do we connect with people? How do we have people connect with the country in a non-political type way? What is the way that we can get everyone to kind of gather around 13 different ideas that everyone should be able to support? So that was the original kind of concept. And then as we're going through it, my goal is, and just based on your way you phrased the question, I think I'm striking that balance. My goal is to come up with very different designs each time. It's not to have 13 designs that look red, white, and blue. It's to have each one be its own living, breathing thing. And part of the reason why they're every 2 months apart is it takes some of the time pressure off of myself, not all of it.
Not much.
But it gives me time to recharge and really dive into each one individually versus coming up with 13 all at the same time and then releasing them. So like Grand Canyon, I knew it had to look like Grand Canyon. It had to sit, like when you looked at it, you had to go like, wow, that's got a lot of color, you know, and you could either guess what the name is or what it was kind of inspired by, or when someone says to you, you know, when someone goes, oh, what tartan is that? And you go, Grand Canyon, they go, yup, I get it, 100%. That I 100% see it. So that's kind of what I'm going after with all these. I want some of them to be the gradient effect, like in the county fair that I have on here. I want some of them to be a little bit more, you know, standard tartan looking. I want some of them to be brighter. I want some of them to be darker. I want some of them to have, you know, brightness and darkness balanced. I want some of them to be lighter colors and some of them, you know, more jewel tone kind of things. So I really am, in the way that we are designing them and kind of thinking of the project holistically, trying to do very, very different things for each one so that it's not just samey.
Yep.
Yeah, and I will give a little tip of my cap as well to Jillian, who's in the building as well. She's designed a few tartans, and she's got a good eye for it as well. So one of the things that I did, I've used her for, is, hey Jillian, I'm stuck on this concept. Here's the story we're trying to tell. Mock up a few designs and then kind of have her kickstart my gears and either like, ooh, I like this one, I'm going to go further down that path, or nope, I had those same ideas, I don't like them, and be able to go in a different direction with it. So it's all about just utilizing the resources and the talents of the people in the building to help tell the stories and come up with different designs. Yeah. For the question about growth of the company, it's just loving what you do and hiring cool people. Hiring people you like to be around every day. If you're in a, as he brings Ali on the screen there, if you're in an environment, the first person I ever had to fire. We were in an environment. I'll leave the name out, but you were working for us at the time as well, and it became it was a small company. It was only like 5 or 6 of us here at the time.
Yep.
And one person had a bit of a roller coaster emotional personality. So some days he would be, you know, outgoing, great, over the moon, everybody's best bud, and then something would get in a fight with a girlfriend, and then for a week straight he would be a miserable git and just, you know, what, and snap at everybody. And it just became a weirdly like walking on eggshell, quasi-toxic environment. And for a small company, that is not good. And I kind of got to a point where I'm like, I hate going to work every day because this person is going to be just a jerk, or I'm going to have to deal with it. And this is earlier in my career as a boss. So, you know, it literally got to the point where I just said, I can't deal with this anymore. I got to let him go. And I take this very, very, very much so as my own L, as my scarlet letter, that I didn't have the guts as a boss to sit him down and say, dude, your attitude sucks. Go home, come back with a better attitude tomorrow. I'm not dealing with this. I didn't have the guts to do that. So it literally, I just held back all of our emotions, and everyone had the same emotions about him. And then eventually it just came to a head, and I was like, yep, it's not working. You got to go. And he was surprised that we fired him. So again, that is my loss. That is my failure as a boss in not having the guts to stand up and talk to people and let them know exactly what is expected in the work environment, period. But I love citing this story as my own loss because it was a pivotal moment for us as a company. It was the moment when I realized if we don't steer the company culture, it will just go where it's going to go. And if we have a bunch of jerks working for us, it's not going to be good, and no one's going to like the environment. So it's really the interview process is as much about the culture fit of the person in the company as it is their talent, as it is their abilities, as it is anything else. It is, are they jerks? If they're jerks, I don't want them. I can't. It would be toxic and it would destroy the team. So it's about hiring people who are passionate and who are nice, good, honest people. And because that's kind of the whole shtick of the company, is to be honest, good, straight shooters that are just trying to help customers express their heritage. So if you start with a good layer of employees and staff, you end up with a much sturdier foundation and a better company. So that's a long-winded way of saying it's really down to the staff that we have is how we've been successful.
I think I
there
agree.
are other things. I think there are other things that you've, not to sound like I'm blowing smoke, but I think there are things that are watchwords for how you've run the company that have been
Obsession with culture.
Yeah,
obsession with marketing.
Yeah,
and videos.
Perfectionistic tendency. I remember when I first started, one of the first mantras I learned was, we do our best to avoid mistakes because then you don't have to fix them later. Get it right the first time, and then you don't have angry customers. Things like that. I remember the fact that you had not gone into any debt for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Basically just lived within your means while you were building the company and just rolled it over. And so you were growing it organically at that point. Yeah. I mean, and not being afraid to try new stuff.
Yeah.
So I think though it's always a different chemistry for whatever business you're in, but that's what's worked here.
Yep.
Not being
afraid to try new things and fail and learn from them. Like the whole point is to learn. And whether that's learning from our own mistakes or mistakes from other companies, I'm constantly looking out for, this company did this thing this way, whether it's in the kilt space or it's a different market entirely. They did this thing this way. Why? How can I shift, or how can I utilize these thoughts, these actions, this type of thing for ourselves? How can I do that internally? Is there a reason why the way that they handled this particular scenario was good or bad? Like, how is the outcome? And, should we do the same thing? Like I've talked about one of our suppliers in Scotland had, played all of his cards very close to his chest and ended up getting cancer, and then had to fast forward teaching his son and other people in the business how to run the business because no one knew what he did. He did everything himself. He was too closed, and he didn't want anyone to do what he did and knew what he knew. Whereas I saw that and I was like, nope, he'll never be able to go on vacation. He'll never be able to do other things and or pass it down. Right. So it's about finding the right people to put in the right positions, teaching them how to do the job, letting them fail in their own way, holding them accountable, but letting it cook.
Yeah. And finally, I would say generally just trying to look for the win-win, so that nobody goes away unhappy from either exchange of product for money or from a business deal. We with all the suppliers and all the artisans and stuff, the idea is to make sure everybody feels like they're benefiting from the relationship. That's how you retain people. That's how you retain relationships. That's how you build relationships. So,
yep.
You had the poster in there, from Gary Vee. It says positivity always wins, and it sounds like a cliche, but it's true.
Yep.
So
when even when I'm talking to suppliers about pricing and things like that, or if I'm negotiating pricing, I don't want to screw them to the wall so badly and so hard that they're going to give me such a discount that I'm going to be happy because I'm winning, but they're going to be miserable because they're not making as much money. Yeah. Any business dealing you have, whether it's with a customer, whether it's with a supplier, no matter what it is, everybody, all parties involved have to win. If you don't feel like you're winning, then it doesn't matter, and you're going to burn that bridge. You're not going to have that relationship when you need it the next time. When you need to call in a favor, you're not going to have it. And one joking kind of competition. I was talking to Piper Alley about this the other day, or Alley the Piper about this the other day. And Jamesy I was talking to about it. It's anything that we do, I always want it to be 51-49. Like, I'm putting in more effort and I'm trying to give more than I'm taking out of any interaction with, whether it's employees, whether it's customers, whether it's peers, whether it's suppliers. I want to always feel like I'm giving more to them than they are taking from us, because I always want to be leave that extra karma point on the table. I want people to have an emotional connection of, oh, he really is looking out for me. He's really trying to do the right thing. Wow, I feel like I got the better deal here. And in doing that, I'm engendering more loyalty to me or to the company in a way that, again, if we need it later on, if I need to call in a favor, hey, I need this thing overnighted. Can you please send it? Sure, not a problem. And they'll do it for you.
Yeah.
So just be a nice human.
Yep.
And things come back to you. That's kind of the point.
Yep.
So a bit long-winded, but
we're passionate about.
Yeah.
We're proud
Doing
of
the
how
right
we
thing.
do things. Frankly,
Yeah.
I think you should be proud of how you do things. So
I agree.
I wish more companies were like that. But that's why I work here. So,
It would make my life dealing with other companies much easier.
right?
I don't mean in Highlandware. I mean like
In
calling
general.
Pico because the power bill was screwed up
Oh
or
my
something.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway. Yes.
Love you, man.
Yes. Love you too.
You're awesome.
I love all of you.
And we're here too.
And you. And viewers at home. All right.
And you were there. And you were there. Is it my turn now? I think it's my
Yes.
turn now. Okay.
Yep.
Robert Riggs asked us, what would you recommend for a 14-year-old who wants a good quality kilt, but they're still growing?
Good quality kilt.
So,
but they're still growing.
They care. They must see Dad, and they want to look just like Daddy and look great.
Fair.
But they're shooting up like a bean pole.
Yeah. I have two things we've said often before, and one little twist on the answer. So, how old is it? 11 or 14?
14.
14. Okay. So, there's two things. One, kids at 11, 12, 13, 14 are going to probably grow height-wise faster than they will waist-wise. So what I would say is, one, ask your kilt maker to make the kilt and then put a 2-inch hem in it as the finished length. Mm-hmm. So if the child is currently a 20-inch length, then I ask the kilt maker, please make the kilt to a 22-inch length and then hem it to a 20 after it's all completed. That way you can just drop one row of stitching and iron the pleats down at the bottom, and boom, it's you get an extra 2 inches out of it. Second thing I would say is, they're going to outgrow it height-wise further before they will waist-wise, but
right.
They'll still grow waist-wise a bit as well. So what I typically say is have the kilt maker make it to the tightest hole. So the hole on the fringe side that is nearest to the fringe. So if they're a 28-inch waist, I would say don't make it to 28 on the middle hole. Make it so that it's 28 but can go up to 31. That way they get a little bit more usage out of it as they grow over the years. And do you have any tips for the fit or things like that before I get into my other point?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my other point with getting kids into a kilt to be able to express their heritage is something that I have to fight against my own nature of being controlling of certain things. Make the process of getting the kilt and getting the accessories something that is enjoyable and that they are leading the way on. So
okay.
If you're getting, let's say you're a Mackay and you have a Mackay Modern because that was your dad's kilt and you like the Mackay Modern, and you show your son or daughter, whoever it is, your 14-year-old, you show them the Mackay tartans. So like, okay, well, this is the Mackay tartan. This is the one that that I have. But here's a weathered version. Here's an ancient version. Here's a muted version. Here's the Mackay blue, which is an entirely different Mackay tartan in general. And let them pick the one that they like the most. Don't force them to wear the same one that you have because you want them to be mini-me. Let them pick the one that they want. If they say that they want a semi-dress sporran, not a day sporran, let them pick it. If they say they want the Fenrir kilt belt buckle, not the Stag's Head kilt belt buckle, let them pick the kilt belt buckle. Let them make their outfit their own, because it will mean more to them, and it will show that you're giving them a little bit of independence and that you're allowing them to express their own heritage in their own way and not shoving them into a box that you're creating for them. But it's letting them do it on their terms, which will have a longer lasting impact on how they feel about the culture and frankly how they feel about you as a parent in that you let them do certain things and you're letting out the rope a little bit.
What if they want to wear buckle brogues?
Disown them.
Yes.
Just straight no. Hard no.
But seriously, what if
Tell them they were adopted.
maybe you touched on this, but I mean, did you say let them choose their own tartan? What if they say they want a different tartan other than the family tartan?
Yeah,
I mean,
I would,
that for some people be like, well, then why are you even representing the family? You know, I mean, but
I would still let them do it because it's one kilt in a lifetime.
True.
They will probably get more kilts. So if they said no, I don't want the Mackay tartan, I want to wear the American Dream because I like red, white, and blue, and that's the one that I want. Or this is my favorite color. Or this story speaks to me more. Or frankly, their answer is going to be, I like these colors better. Or I don't like green and blue tartans, or I don't want the one that you have. I want to do something different on my own.
Right.
I didn't wear the same clothes as my dad at age 13.
You didn't?
No, I had
What's wrong with you?
I had my combat boots and my jeans jacket and my metal phase.
Oh, adorable.
Yes, and my baseball caps, backwards baseball caps. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I would let them do. It's still your kid. They're still part of your family. They're still doing the thing. You just don't need a uniform to be in your family. And if you do think of it that way, then the uniform is the kilt itself, and the tartan honestly doesn't matter. So that's kind of how I would think about it.
Yeah, I think that's good. I like that.
I agree.
Gorsh.
Yeah.
Make it a bonding experience. Make it a family experience.
Yes. Allie.
All right. Would you like a kind of easy, silly palate cleanser or something a bit more serious?
Actually,
we got 6.
I'd like neither.
Oh.
Because we're at the midpoint of the show. And I have a little viddy that I want to show for you about the county fair tartan. Right here. Put it on the video. Every summer, the spirit of community and celebration comes alive across America. As the sun sinks below the horizon, painting the sky in deep purples and fiery reds, the air hums with excitement. Music drifts through the crowd. Colored lights dance overhead. And the scents of popcorn and funnel cake fill the warm evening breeze. As a child, you remember holding your parents' hand, eyes wide with wonder, as you waited your turn at the ring toss. As a teen, that wonder turned into your first taste of freedom, roaming the fairgrounds with your friends, laughing as you dash from ride to ride. Years later, nostalgia tugs at your heartstrings as you watch your child experience this magic for the first time. From farm fairs to dazzling carnivals, bustling boardwalk amusement parks to the magic of a traveling circus, summer is a season of shared stories, woven together by joy, tradition, and community. The County Fair tartan is inspired by the color, the energy, and the unforgettable experiences of fairs and carnivals across the nation. Dusty purple and soft red echo the glow of twilight, spilling across the sky, alive with the promise of adventure. Deep navy fades into black, punctuated by the shimmer of a thin white stripe, the quiet presence of the moon and stars in the night sky, watching over the festivities below. Muted yellow carries the memory of laughter shared over caramel apples, the thrill of carnival games, and the unspoken joy of summer nights spent with those who matter most. And a thin gold stripe shines like the warm glow of carnival lights, twinkling in the evening air, a beacon of excitement and nostalgia. The County Fair tartan is more than just a pattern. It's a thread in the tapestry of your happiest moments. Wherever your fair memories take you, this tartan carries the spirit of summer, of excitement, and cherished experiences woven together with friends and family. So that is our county fair tartan. I hope you guys like it. It's this one was a challenge trying to figure out
it was.
what do fairs, circuses, 4-H clubs, what do all these gatherings have in common? How do we express all those things in a single design? So for these, we kind of focused on the lights and the energy and the movement, juxtaposed against like the starry sky overhead, and they typically happen in evenings and that kind of thing. So sun going down. So that's the vibe that we went with for the county fair tartan. So let me know in the comments, what do you think of it? Yay, nay? If you don't like it, roast me in the comments. Tell me how bad you hate it.
Oh boy, here we
go. If you do like it, defend me. Fight.
Now we have a guest witness here because Allie actually has familial ties to the carnival scene, right? So
yes, I have carny history.
She's one of those people.
Yeah. So I when I first moved down to this area, I was looking for a job and I started working for a carnival in a food joint. If any of you have worked in a food joint before, put it in the comments. And my fiance, who I'm going to be married to eventually, I guess that's implied, right?
That's kind of what the word means.
He and his family have been in the carnival and the carny business for generations now, starting with what I believe to be either his grandparents or his great-grandparents up until some of the grandkids now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. So how do you feel about the county fair?
Yeah.
The county fair tartan?
Yes.
Tartan, sorry.
Yes.
I like it a lot. I think it really embodies Knights of the Carnival. The dusky sky settling into darkness, the stars peeping through, the tree lines, the lights from all the games and the rides. I feel like it all really comes together there. I also appreciate that this one is a bit more gradient versus like blocky, because I don't know, the carnival has like a lot of things going on, a lot of blending, and it all just kind of melts together a bit.
A lot of time it's a sensory overload.
Yes.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Blending of
by
sounds
design.
and smells of sights. Yeah.
If you are somebody who's hypersensitive, it can be a lot. But if you're not, it's a smorgasbord, orchesborg. It's a lot of fun.
Cultural reference not found.
Oh
I'm too
my
old.
God, Charlotte's Web.
Oh, okay.
And they're at a carnival.
Got it.
That's true.
Because that's the thing. It's like for some people, it's like it's an agricultural show, like a county.
Yeah.
A county fair, truly. But even those, there's usually some kind of nightlife. So I think the nightlife aspect is what kind of ties any form of this event across the country together, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
So,
and the excitement and the level of, just energy surrounding the events. Even if the boardwalks and things at the shore and things like that. So hopefully it comes through. So
yay.
Yes.
I like it.
All right, Allie.
Yes.
Next question from the online peeps.
Okay, this one is from David Heinsohn. This one is for Eric specifically. Did the clearances change Highland attire? Attire before and after?
Not really. It's a really cool question. It's a good question. This kind of gets part and parcel to the whole, the idea of, were there American colonists or people in early America wearing kilts? And there's not much, if any, evidence for that. The clearances ran for a long time, and they came in waves. But they started basically in the late 18th century and ran up through roughly even the mid 19th century. Basically, as more and more land was being bought up and improved by either native landlords or people who came into Scotland to buy up estate lands and use them to make money, and they realized that sheep were more profitable than cattle and humans. So the clearances occurred. That same time period is when we see the Highland Revival. We see the birth of the revival suit, and kilts becoming part of the national identity of Scotland. But it's important to realize that at that point in time, kilts were not as a common garment like they had been in the mid 18th century and earlier. People were not running around in kilts at that time, and a little bit if that is the hangover from the prescriptions, but mostly it's just because it just wasn't fashionable, and it wasn't the practical thing that working class people were wearing. So they were wearing basically the same kind of clothes that anybody else in a cooler European environment was wearing to go out and work in the fields. So did it have an effect on Highland dress? No. The people who were trying to invent Highland dress, the people who were into the revival, tended to be middle-class merchants to upper-class people.
Sir Walter Scott and
yeah, it's the people who had the time and the money to play around with it, had the resources, and romanticized it for better or for worse, as opposed to the poor schmoes, who, the crofters, who were basically just wearing one set of clothing their entire life, And so you would have plaids, you would have shawls, you had tartan fabric, but you did not really have the sense that it's not like you had some guy dressed as Jamie Fraser from Outlander, and then loses his land and starts wearing trousers. It wasn't like that. It wasn't dramatic or anything like that. I'm rambling a bit, but the general answer is no. Poor people were wearing what poor people have always worn.
Yeah.
So.
And we actually have an entire video on the Highland clearances. Do you remember what the name of it is? It's on our YouTube. Yes. We'll insert a link somewhere.
It's one of my favorites.
Yes.
Actually, yeah, that was one of my favorite videos that we've done.
Yeah. I even did it myself that time. Look at me.
And that was, but it's a tragic story. It gets overshadowed by things like the Great Hunger in Ireland, but similar kind of patterns.
Yeah.
The well-off taking advantage of the not well-off. But yeah, it didn't really have an impact on fashion. Now, I would say that it probably had a huge impact on other aspects of the culture, like music, cuisine, stories, and obviously just the immigration itself. Massive impact on the diaspora. So did it affect Scotland? Yes. Did it affect the culture? Absolutely. Clothing, not so much.
Yeah. And thank God we are beyond the times when those who are more well off no longer take advantage of those who are less well off. That was a close one. Luckily we got beyond that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Totally isn't happening in our time.
Not at all. All right. Eric.
Yes.
Next question, pretty please.
I want to talk about history more. Anyway.
We'll get
there.
We have a couple of different history, culture pieces that will be coming up in the next couple of months, though. So thank you for everybody who's recently told me they're interested in that stuff. Thank you. Keeps me going. I appreciate that. Adam Mitchell says, "Hey, guys."
Just like that. He knows him personally.
Hi, guys. Another great show going on. Why would Scottish clans share a tartan?
Why would Scottish
clans have the same tartan or share a tartan, as he phrased it?
Okay.
And I think that is a really great question, frankly.
It is.
So much so.
So much so.
That we...
So you're going to put on glasses
Okay.
and adjust your head.
This one we got in before the show, and I can't read anything without glasses anymore. I'm old. So I made up a list of all the tartans that I could think of that had the same name, like Austin, Keith, Marshall. There's Baxter and Buchanan. There's Mitchell, Russell, Galbraith, Hunter. There's all these different tartans. And that's what he's talking about. It's one pattern that has multiple names. Sometimes it's a district name and a clan pattern. Sometimes it's multiple clans. Sometimes it's just multiple names, period. So some of these I knew, some of these I didn't. And I used my phone a friend. I spoke to my buddy Peter McDonald this morning and got some more history on certain circumstances. So I'm going to kind of go through a list because between Peter and I, we kind of broke it down into different categories. So if you're not a nerd like me, I apologize. I'm about to nerd way the hell out right now. So when one pattern has multiple names, there's a few different reasons. There's like dual titles. So Austin, Keith, Marshall, Falconer is one. Baxter and Buchanan Old is another one. A third one, and sometimes one name will select it first, and another name kind of globs onto it, and then another name globs onto it. In the case of Galbraith, Russell, Hunter, Mitchell, Galbraith was the first name of that pattern, and it was documented by the Highland Society of London. Russell, it was given the name Russell in 1847 by Wilson's Bannockburn. They just basically changed the name or amended it in their pattern book to include the second. Then it became Hunter as well. This one I found was very, very interesting. It became known as Mitchell in 1960 because the U.S. Air Force Pipe Band it was put together by General Billy Mitchell, and that was the particular tartan that they started wearing it. So they just started calling it the Mitchell tartan in honor of him. So that's how the name Mitchell got associated with that tartan. Another thing that Peter pointed out was sometimes two tartans, or a tartan with two names, can be just the anglicized version of a Gallic name. So in the instance of McTavish or Thompson Red, or Logan and McLennan. Those are two examples of that. Sometimes it's through it has multiple names through an association with an original design. So in the case of Blackwatch, it's also known as the Campbell tartan. It's also known as Monroe hunting. It's also known as Grant hunting. It's also known as Sutherland hunting. And the names that are associated, Sutherland, Grant, Monroe, Campbell, were all associated with the early regiments of the Blackwatch. So they just kind of became that either hunting versions or the main version of their clan tartan as well.
They're already wearing it.
Because they're already wearing it, and or from adoption of, this is one of the things. There's district tartans and name tartans, and sometimes it was a name that's prominent in a district, so much so that the name tartan became the district tartan. Sometimes it's vice versa. So there's the Murray of Athol Highlanders. The Murray tartan, or Murray of Athol tartan is, was worn by the Murray of Athol Highlanders and became the Athol district tartan. Campbell a Quarter is also known as the Argyll district tartan. The tartan that is one that Peter said to me was the McIntyre of Glenorchy tartan married a Cumming, so that became the Cumming hunting tartan. They just replaced, I think it was the navy blue with black, and there were so many Cummings living in the Buchan district in Scotland, it became the Buchan district tartan. Some tartans have no clan affiliation, like the two clans have no affiliation, but it's just called the thing. So in the case of MacNichol or Nicholson, that is a particular tartan, and in 1990, it was noticed by somebody from TECA, the Tartan Educational Cultural Association in the U.S., in the Highland Games in 1990 in Santa Rosa, that someone was calling it the Cunningham hunting tartan. So Cunningham and Nicholson do not have any connections as clans, but it just kind of poof became a thing, was recorded, and now it's a thing. Some just adopt the tartan because they like that particular pattern. Sometimes it's down to the marketing or marketing shifting the names of the patterns. So a couple examples there. Wilson's of Bannockburn had a pattern that they called number 155, which also had the name Caledonia. The Caledonia tartan was bought by a guy with the last name Kidd, and then Wilson's of Bannockburn said, "Oh, Kidd, right, this is now going to be the Kidd tartan as well." And then it became the McPherson tartan when it was adopted in 1817, in the lead up to the King's visit in 1822. There's the example of the Murphy/Tara tartan. Peter indicated that the origins of it are not actually known. It's currently in the register attributed to the Clan Original in 1880, that book. He said it's not true. Murphy existed as a pattern, which is actually just a color shift on the MacLean of Duarte tartan. And then in, what year was it? In 1967, the marketing changed and a mill started calling it, not Murphy, because that's just one name, they started calling it the Tara tartan to try to give more of an Irish slant to it. Okay. So the name got added on, Murphy or Tara. And then the last example would be the Wilson's of Bannockburn pattern 232 was also known as the Regency tartan, which then changed to the McLaren tartan when they officially adopted that particular pattern in 1822. And the thing that I was thinking about, so those are all the Scottish examples.
That's a lot.
It's a lot,
There's
and
a lot of different reasons. Is what I'm
and there's
getting at.
more. Exactly. There's no one reason why this one particular pattern has multiple names. There's kind of like, I tried to break it down kind of into like categories or potential reasons why, and lump them together. But it is still, in the marketing aspect at least, it is still happening today. What you'll notice is, but I think it's happening for a different reason. It's happening either because of copyright issues or because I want to be different than that company, especially in Pakistan. I've noticed some of the Pakistan mills will, basically, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they were weaving the Irish National Tartan, which is a House of Edgar owned copyrighted design, and they just started weaving it. And then when they started getting called out on, hey, you're not allowed to do that, that's copyrighted, they just said, okay, no, this is the Irish Heritage Tartan, or this is Dark Irish, or Irish Pride. They would just give it a different name. In a similar way, there's the Spirit of Bruce, Spirit of the Highlander, King Robert the Bruce tartan, depending on which company you buy from in Pakistan. They call it different things. There's the Hamilton Grey, McFarlane Grey, Grey Watch, Grey Granite, Night Watch tartan. So there are different examples of this that still occur today for different reasons having to do more with marketing and or copyright avoidance. So it's a spunky load of noodles. But one of the things that this also highlighted for me when I was going down the rabbit hole deeply this morning was that not the origin story of a lot of tartans is not known. Like when Peter was talking about Galbraith Russell Hunter tartan, he said this one was first and then this one. But in my research, it may have actually been the other way around. And then there's other things that are saying like, actually, we don't know. This one, I think, was back, like there's a gray, murky, kind of misty origin story for a lot of tartans because it wasn't cataloged, because people didn't see like, okay, this is going to be our official clan tartan. Let's have a big parade. Let's make this known, and it's going to be a decree, and this is going to be, saved for eternity. It was a lot of the stuff just started off as a pretty pattern, and then this family started wearing it generally, and then the more that they wore it, the more it got associated with a particular family. But by the time that it was firmly associated with the family, they forget the story of how it came to be associated with the family.
Place.
Yeah. So a lot of these things, unfortunately, are kind of lost to time, and you don't know the true origin story of it. Through work of historians like Brian Wilton, Peter MacDonald, people like that, more is kind of being pieced together. But if the story doesn't exist to start with, and it wasn't written down to start with, we're just kind of piecing together history as best we can, and as things are, as new things get discovered, you have to amend the story.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I had guessed at a few of those things, but not the full extent of the different variances of the stories of how it happened.
And one thing that Peter is very, very passionate about, that it's going to be a big project, is correcting the entries in the Scottish Register of Tartans. Because the SRT is just an amalgamation of the Scottish Tartan Authority notes and the Scottish World Tartan Register notes, two entities that kind of gave all the data to the Scottish Register of Tartans before it existed. So they're dealing with chicken scratch notes sometimes that were transcribed, or somebody's memory of a thing that happened, or it's very, very loose. It was never written as academic papers. So Peter has taken it upon himself to, if he finds something that is wrong, correct it, so that way going forward it will have more accurate notes.
Good for him.
Yeah, it's a heck of a project. Not enough time in a day to get it all done. Allie.
To dovetail off of that answer a little bit, we had a question from Pat Willinger. You guys have sharing a tartan, but what is the difference between that and a sept?
Okay.
A sept. What's the difference between in the case of Mitchell, Russell, Hunter, Galbraith sharing the same tartan versus a sept of a clan? The what we are talking about currently is essentially 2, 3, 4, however many names that are equal, generally speaking, sharing the same design. What you're talking about is a sept, which is a family that is under a different family. So Reed is a sept of Robertson, or McMichael is a sept of Stewart of Appin. So it would for a sept, it would either be someone who lived on the land of a clan chief, or married into the family, or pledged loyalty or fealty to the clan chief, and then they would say like, okay, well, you're now associated, so you can therefore, it would be appropriate for you to wear the tartan of that particular clan.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between sept of something and an equal branch who just happens to share the exact same tartan.
Yep. Sept is related to the word sect, separation, and it was usually basically a smaller family unit that pledged loyalty to a larger clan for protection. Very often families living on the lands of the clan, paying the clan what was called man rent, meaning if you go to war, we will send X number of guys to help you out. Those kinds of relationships. So it's very feudal, so very medieval, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So different from the art of the tartan that we're talking about.
Yes, indeed. All right, Allie, that was a short one. Give me another one.
All right. Let's see.
And I apologize to everyone out there if that was too nerdy. This is my jam, though.
Everything we talk about has roots. I think it's important to realize that it's not simple, clear cut.
Yeah, it's a lot more nuanced than people give it credit for.
Always is.
Or than
Always
understand. There's the surface level that you're barely scratching, but when you start actually digging into it, there's a lot more there, and it's a lot murkier than a lot of people give it credit for. So, yeah, I like digging into it.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got a question from Adam T. Burns. Is there an origin story for why diced hose became somewhat standard issue for a lot of pipe bands? They seem to clash with most tartans, even those that were predominantly red.
I would take exception to standard issue for pipe bands. I'd say the vast majority of pipe bands do not wear a diced hose.
Now,
correct. It was a military thing. Eric, do you have thoughts on this? Because I don't really have much.
I hate them. No.
Yeah.
I don't really have solid information on this, unfortunately, but yeah, I think basically diced hose were a simplified standard way of doing something like Argyle hose. Hose where you have a lot of different color patterns, and sometimes those patterns would match a tartan, sometimes they wouldn't. But it again, going back to like Highland Revival period, it's like, this feels right. This is a Highland dress. So if you're the military, you want to have that, esprit de corps. You want to have that as part of your uniform, but you're not going to make something as complicated as, a tartany kind of pattern hose or Argyle hose. They're just, a lot of colors, a lot of complex weaving. So you dumb it down, basically. And I think that's where diced hose probably came from. This is speculative on my part. And then over time, because more often than not, as military technology advanced, you had fewer troops wearing kilts and all the accoutrements that go with them, but the pipers are always still in it, and we're always in the best dressed version of it. So you retain that part along with retaining the kilt for the pipers. And so as pipe bands, as part of regiments, became known for this look, then other pipe bands wanted to have that same panache, so they started adopting a military style for their uniforms. And to this day, you have some bands that have a more old-fashioned-y or a more military style uniform versus others. But even so, in the modern age, diced hose themselves are also a bit harder to maintain. They show dirt more easily. They're harder to make, therefore they're more expensive. So solid colors are much more common now. And that's also why you had hose tops, where it wasn't even real kilt hose, but it looked right. And you had your regular socks on inside your shoes, but nobody saw that. So it's economics and practicality versus a style which was a survival from an earlier time period, like so much of what we're talking about.
And when you say hose tops, just to expand on that,
Yes, please.
for the mental description, hose tops are essentially just the cuff and leg part. Think of it as footless socks. They're just calf warmers. So it's basically you don't have the foot of the sock, which is the part that wears out. Therefore, it doesn't wear out. And it's just, you put it on your leg and you wear your regular socks underneath it to give the look, the effect of diced hose.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
That's the best I can do for an answer, but
yes.
for now.
And I can do even less good, so we'll move on.
Less good.
All right,
More
Eric.
gooder.
This is some aspects of this are just too complicated for people to want to bother with in this day and age. I mean, you occasionally see people bring back castellated kilt hose,
Hose tops,
which look amazing, but they're hard to make. So most people are into that. They're weaving their own.
Knitting.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Knitting their own.
Yeah.
Ramble, blah, blah, blah. Dave Beals said, your America 250 tartan designs are truly amazing. Thank you. I would like to know how difficult it is to confirm that a tartan design can actually be made. For example, consulting with the mills to ensure that the dyes and the fabric will match the design you have created. So, how hard is it to go from idea to reality with making these things?
The way that it's all about relationship with the mills, understanding limitations of the mill, of ourselves, and planning as much in advance and being as kind and forgiving and thoughtful of the other side of the equation as possible. So, for the tartan designer on a website, I knew years ago that I wanted to partner with House of Edgar for most of our custom weaves, especially for our America 250 collection. So the colors that we have listed on the website for our tartan designer, so if you want to go check around, play out with the tartan designer, go to the website. All those colors are the stock supported yarn shades from House of Edgar. So frankly, that makes it a lot easier. It's House of Edgar has a huge selection of 13-ounce yarn shades, so bigger than anyone else's 13-ounce. So that's why we have those on the website. That's why I generally use those. If I was going to do 16-ounce, then I would go to Loch Heron because they have a huge selection of 16-ounce yarn shades. The reason why I do 13 is because you can do it both for women's wear as well as men's wear. You can do it in neckties better and things like that. Whereas 16 ounces, great for kilts, not good for a kilted skirt or for a necktie. And 11 ounces, great for a kilted skirt and necktie, not great for kilts. 13 ounce, kind of the sweet spot in the middle.
Okay.
So in our in doing the America 250 collection, when we first started it, it was literally, I went to Simon House of Edgar and I said, look, here's what I'm doing. Here's the amount of time it's going to take to get through this whole thing. Here's the steps that I'm going to have to take. Here's the deadlines that I'm giving myself as we're going. And I need your word that you're going to be able to hit these deadlines so that when I knock a domino down, these all fall in order. Because if they don't fall in order, it's going to, if one thing gets screwed up, then it all gets screwed up. So starting from a good place, starting from a clear communication standpoint with the mill of, I'm going to use as many of your stock shades as humanly possible. If something needs to be custom dyed, I'm going to give you ample time to be able to go back and forth with the dyers to make sure you're getting the exact appropriate thing. Frankly speaking, I just kind of cut custom dyes right out of the equation because that's going to screw things up. And making sure that we're able to, give them ample time and ample notice to be able to move through the process. As we've kind of gone through the process a little bit, things happen. Life happens. One of the things that's kind of screwed things up a little bit recently was one of the mills, DC Dogleash, who used to do a lot of custom weaves, ended up closing down. So House of Edgar has taken over a lot of the work that kilt makers couldn't get done at DC Dogleash anymore, and they've therefore had their back order times creep up from, for me, from 6 weeks to 8 weeks to 10 weeks to 12 weeks. It's kind of crept up over time a little bit. So now it's just a matter of putting more pressure on myself of, okay, well, if I want this design to arrive here so that we can take video of it and shoot it for a commercial, which has to be edited and come out on this particular day, then working backwards on the calendar, I have to order it by yesterday. Whoops, I got to go. So it's all about planning. Mm-hmm. I am not great at planning that far in advance. It is very, very difficult for us to do it, for I know for you to do it, same as me. But it's one of those where it's just being gracious with suppliers and making sure that you're planning as many things as far out as possible. One of our future designs, and being flexible where you can be. One of our future designs, I had two designs. One had black for one of the main colors, and the other version had like a marled charcoal for the main color. And it was kind of like a 45-55 preference. I was kind of half on the fence. I kind of was going to do the marled yarns, and Edgar came back when I placed the order and said, nope, we don't have enough of that yarn in stock to be able to get it to you in time. It's going to be X amount of months. And I said, that's not going to work. And instead of fighting and stamping my feet and screaming at them, it is what it is. They're not going to be able to do it. Either I have to go to a different mill and hopefully not have to switch all the other colors, or just do the black design and call it done. So, okay, fine. Black design, move forward. So it's all about just being practical and rational, that, as long as the finished product is still going to look good, as long as you're still hitting the deadline, as long as you're still having that good relationship with the mill and not burning the bridge for one particular instance when you still need to have a working relationship with them for years down the line. It's just planning things out and working around whatever obstacles get thrown at you. It's that, life hands you lemons, make lemonade. It's 99% is not what you do, it's how you react to the situation that you're put into. So that's how we do it. Did that answer the question? I have no idea. I rambled.
So?
Sure.
I think so.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I fully answered that question.
You
That
did
was a
it.
perfect
Yeah,
answer. Are you kidding me?
dyes
That was
and
great.
yarn will match the design.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, and the advice is pick a partner that you trust for this stuff, and have a backup in case things go haywire. But it's all about relationships. It's true in life. You know this. It's all about the relationships you have to be able to partner with all this kind of stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, that was you,
Yes.
Allie.
Okay. From the history bunker, we have what?
History bunker. Welcome to the history bunker.
That's him. He's the guy in the history bunker.
Okay.
What is the first kilt recorded?
First kilt recorded.
To your knowledge, anyway.
Define kilt.
Define
That's
recorded.
what it comes down to. Define recorded.
Wow.
The
history bunker. You really blundered this one. No.
Go ahead.
There are historical examples of kilts. I would say the first, but it depends on how you. I'm going to get into like the Bill Clinton ease of like playing with language here. How do you feel like define kilt? What's a kilt? Is a kilt the half kilt? Is it the tailored kilt? Is it a great kilt? Is it just a blanket?
Right.
What is it?
Right.
Tartan?
Did you inhale the kilt?
Yes, indeed. They're like, how do you define kilt? So the easiest answer would probably be the Glen Afric tartan, which is the earliest known tartan, dyed fabric of checked kind of thing, of different warp and weft. It's not the Falkirk tartan, which is really just black and white, checker.
Yep.
So that one was from 500 years ago. So
1580s.
1580s. So around that kind of time period. Now it was recovered in a peat bog, in a reforestation project, in Glen Afric, Scotland. So you don't know whether it was a kilt or not. It was a piece of fabric. So might have been a kilt. Was probably a kilt. Could have been a kilt. We're going to call it a kilt. That's going to be our answer. The Glen Afric tartan.
So.
And it was recorded recently.
That's the oldest. Yeah, and that's the oldest natively Scottish true tartan type tartan pattern, to be very specific, because in all likelihood, it was worn as a plaid, but we don't know. We don't know. Could have been a really nice bedspread, you know. The earliest artistic depiction we have of men wearing the filamur is of Scottish mercenaries fighting in the lowlands. I almost want to say that it was Albrecht Dürer who actually drew them. It's a lithograph. It's a sketch that was turned into a printable image of these mercenaries, and a same period roughly as the Glenafric piece. So, and you've probably seen it if you do any kind of a Google search on Great Kilt or anything. You'll see this. It's like 4 guys with very strange long beards, and they have different weapons forms that they're carrying, and they're just kind of like hanging out, like, yeah, hey, we're Scots and we're here to kill people in the lowlands. That is the earliest depiction we have. I think there's written depictions from Tudor England of people going to Scotland saying yes, and they wrap themselves up in this brightly colored fabric, but it's very vague. This is why we always caution people to say that there's very little evidence that the kilt was worn prior to the latter part of the 16th century. So the whole Braveheart thing is a myth. You know, we all know this, but that's why we know it's a myth, because you just don't have any evidence.
So what's the one that's the heraldic example where there's the guy on the side of the crest?
That's 17th century,
and that was the half kilt. That wasn't the great kilt,
yes,
correct? That's the first example of the half kilt.
I think that's 17th or early 18th century, and that is a little kilt, a walking kilt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Indeed.
He is a what's called a supporter.
Yes.
For a coat of arms.
Yep.
I can't remember whose coat of arms it is, but he's just a dude standing there saying, "Look at this coat of arms."
Yeah.
So, yep.
And can you make the face again for the 4 mercenary guys? I never noticed the resemblance before, but I get it. I get it.
Striking.
That's my heritage.
You may be directly descended from
I just don't have the beard. Yeah.
We can draw it on in post. It's fine.
Sure.
All right. That was Allie?
That was Allie. Okay. Michael Milholland says, I'm still a little confused as to what exactly is the so-called pivot. I was looking at the description of the American Dream Tartan, and it referred to the 13 stripes at the red pivot. Huh? What you talking about? What?
All right, Marty, could you bring up the photo of the County Fair tartan on screen there? I'm going to just use the pivot. So, if you look right here, there you go. Here, Boink. The white stripe that's right, in line with my buttons on my shirt here. That is one pivot in this design. The other pivot in this design is right here on this yellow stripe, right there. Boink. So, if you take a mirror right on the yellow stripe right there, or right on the white stripe right here, take a mirror. What you see on this side, what you see on that side is the exact thing. That is a pivot. That is where the design reverses.
Flip, flop, flip, flop, flip, flop.
Correct.
Flip, flop.
So when I'm actually designing a tartan, the thread count of the tartan goes from this yellow stripe here to this white stripe here. That's the thread count from there to there, and then it just reverses, and then reverses again, and then reverses again. So it's any mill based on that thread count will just, pivot on the end points, go back, forth, and that's how you make a design. Where it is different is in an asymmetrical tartan. So instead of taking, nope, leave it back. Sorry. So instead of taking this white stripe and what's on this side and what's on that side are the exact same thing, you're going to take, here, I'm going to do this. So you're taking, trying to get my hands in the right spots. All right, taking this and then putting it here and then putting it here. So it would be like the white stripe that's here and the yellow stripe that's here would essentially, the white stripe would be right